Hello, my friend, and welcome to the Daily English Podcast. Today, we're learning some useful words about cinema and films. We'll look at the kinds of films, the people who make them, and some common phrases you hear when talking about movies. Let's begin. Today, we're learning about action film. An action film is full of exciting events, often with a lot of fighting, chases, explosions, and so on. Here's an example. I love action films with car chases. Next, we have animation. An animation is a film made with drawings or computer images rather than real people and places. For example, Shrek is a famous animation. We also have comedy. A comedy is a funny film that makes you laugh. Here is an example. That comedy made the whole cinema laugh. Next, drama. A drama is a serious story about real life. For example, she prefers family dramas. Next, historical film. A historical film shows events from the past. For example, we watched a historical film about World War II. Then, horror film. A horror film is a scary movie. For example, I can't sleep after watching horror films. Then, musical. A musical is a film with singing and dancing. For example, the musical had amazing songs. Next, rom-com. A rom-com is short for romantic comedy. So it's a film with love, laughter, and maybe a happy ending. For example, a rom-com usually has love and laughter. Next, science fiction. Science fiction is a film about space, time travel, or technology, but you can also use the short form sci-fi. For example, I enjoy science fiction films about robots. Then thriller. A thriller is a film full of suspense and excitement. For example, that thriller kept me on the edge of my seat. Next, war film. A war film is a story about battles and soldiers. For example, my grandfather likes war films. And finally, western. A western is a cowboy movie. For example, old westerns usually show life in America 200 years ago. Let's look at some people and things related to cinema. First, the cast. The cast is the list of all the actors in a film. Next, star. The star is the most important actor in a film. For example, Tom Cruise is the star of the new film. Next, soundtrack. The soundtrack is the music in a film. For example, the soundtrack was amazing. Then plot. The plot is the story of a film. For example, the plot of the film was complicated. Next, scene. A scene is a part of the film in one place. For example, there are many scenes in the film. Next, audience. The audience is the people who watch the film. For example, the audience laughed at the comedy. Next, sequel. A sequel is a new film that continues the story. For example, they made a sequel to the original film. Then, special effects. Special effects are computer or camera tricks in a film. For example, the film had amazing special effects. Next, trailer. A trailer is the short video that shows a preview of the film. For example, we watched the trailer before buying the tickets. Next, script. The script is the words that actors say in the film. For example, the script was very funny. Next, extra. An extra is a background actor with no big role. For example, lots of extras were in the scene. Next, subtitle. A subtitle is the text at the bottom of the screen. For example, I need subtitles when I watch foreign films. And then review. A review is an article giving an opinion about the film. For example, the review said the film was amazing, and the person who writes a review is called a critic. For example, film critics often have different opinions. Here are some verbs and phrases used to talk about films. First, it is based on. This means the film is inspired by something, perhaps a true story. For example, the film is based on a true story. Then it is set in. When you say a film is set in, you mean the place or time of the story. For example, the film is set in New York in the 1940s. You can also say it is directed by. To direct a film means to make it. For example, it was directed by Steven Spielberg. Then it stars. When you say it stars, you mean the main actor. For example, the film stars Tom Hanks. You can also say it was shot on location. If a film was shot on location, it means it was filmed outside the studio. For example, it was shot on location in Paris. Then it is dubbed. When a film is dubbed, it means that the actors' voices were replaced with another language. For example, the film was dubbed into Spanish. And that's the end of today's Daily English podcast. Now you know the most useful words for talking about films and cinema. And remember, if you want to become fluent in English faster, you need to practice every day. So keep watching films in English, and next time you go to the cinema, try to describe the film using the new vocabulary you learned today. And if you enjoyed this lesson, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share with other English learners. See you in the next episode.